Chapter 10 Magnificent's Herd. Magnificent was a male fast runner who found and aided Chomper and Ruby among the harshness of the cold times. In their search to find the killer of the Sharptooth mother and their eggs, the couple had become hopelessly lost and were unable to find their way to the Great Valley or even back to the mysterious island. Thus, Ruby and Chomper had no other choice but to go with Magnificent. Their supplies were running low, and both were becoming weaker, fighting to keep warm. In such a desperate time, Ruby made the choice to see where Magnificent would lead them. She was more worried about Chomper, who was not only battling the harsh weather, but a cold as well. Not wanting him to decline in health, she knew they needed to get somewhere warm where he could rest and drink a special herb mixture to recover fully. Atop a rocky hill, Magnificent smiled with joy. "Here we are, home sweet home, the sanctuary." Below was a large piece of land where several kinds of leaf-eaters grazed. Chomper gasped and jumped for joy, knowing for once in his life he'd be welcome instead of feared among the leaf-eaters. Ruby smiled, but still was worried, never knowing a great herd existed in the far region of the mysterious beyond. "My, there are many of them." "Indeed. These are those who were unable to make their way to the elusive Great Valley. Unfortunate souls who sought a safe place to live in peace. I found this place, built this herd, and vowed to protect them from Sharptooth." "Yeah, but Sharptooth only do what they were created to do," Chomper put in. "They can't help they eat meat. And you think that excuses them of their sins. From what I've known, they're brainless killers." Magnificent responded with resentment. "Most of us lived in terror under the shadow of Sharptooth, the biggest, most vicious Sharptooth of them all. But that is in the past now. We must look to the future. Come." They made their way down the hill, and the moment Magnificent was spotted, all gathered around. Flowers were dropped from flyers overhead. Several lined up just to touch him or shake his hand. They barely seemed to notice Ruby and Chomper, who found themselves being surrounded. Once they made their way to the center, Magnificent climbed atop a large rock, enjoying the cheering of his beloved herd, throwing his arms up in a grand gesture that sent off a frenzy of yells. "Everyone, please, I'd like you to meet our newest members, Trudy and Rodney. I found them lost in the cold times, needing help, needing me, a guide to this wonderful sanctuary." There was a roar of excitement, Magnificent looking, waving for them to step forward. "Now, all I ask for, from both of you, is a pledge of loyalty." "A pledge?" Ruby questioned softly. "Not to be disrespectful of your traditions, but I never knew of a herd leader to ask their members to pledge themselves to their leader." "Don't worry, it's a simple rite of passage, a little gimmick, if you will," Magnificent said with a smile. "Now, my new subjects, raise your right arm." Ruby did as he instructed, Chomper lifting the left, quickly withdrawing to raise his right arm. "Repeat after me." Magnificent cleared his throat and spoke proudly. I. "Your name." "Your name," Chomper repeated Magnificent word for word. Magnificent wasn't bothered and only looked at Ruby, who was slower to speak. With a deep breath, she repeated softly, knowing she wasn't pledging for herself, but rather that of her mother. "I, Trudy, vow to follow and never question the decisions made by the herd leader, the ruler of Sanctuary, Magnificent." Chomper and Ruby took hands, Chomper noticing Ruby's worried expression, offering a small smile. With a deep breath, they spoke together. "Vow to follow and never question the decisions made by the herd leader and ruler of all Sanctuary, Magnificent." All of Sanctuary welcomes Trudy and Rodney! Magnificent yelled as the herd threw flower petals around them. Clapping erupted, while four-leggers stomped their feet in rhythm. Magnificent! Magnificent! They cried, and one individual shouted, Submit without regret! While they smiled, Ruby hoped they didn't just agree to something they'd regret. Still, once they rested and resupplied, they'd be on their way. They'd leave Magnificent and the Sanctuary behind them. That's what Ruby told herself, seeing the bright circle slowly set. They were offered a nice place to stay, Chomper making a nest as he hummed a merry tune. Wow, that Magnificent sure is something! Hey, yeah, something. Looking up from his work, Chomper saw Ruby stand and look out over the herd. What, you don't like Magnificent? I barely know him. Know him I hardly do, so I shouldn't pass too much judgment. Also, why did you give him your parents' names instead of our own? Ruby paused for a moment. I don't know. Just felt like the best thing to do. Plus, can't have them knowing you're actually a Sharptooth. Well, compared to the cold times, this place is nice. Yeah, it's nice. And the best thing for you to do is rest. Get well so we can leave and track down the mother and egg killer. Chomper lay down, patting for her to join him. Ruby did and felt him pull her close, falling asleep before she did. By the following morning, Chomper woke first and was eager to roam around the sanctuary and say hello to Magnificent's herd. Ruby saw he was feeling better, but was still worried about him. Though, after he assured her he was fine, she couldn't argue and saw him leave. As he walked on, none of the leaf eaters stopped their grazing. They no longer saw him as a threat or something to be feared. Some even waved or gave a nod of acknowledgement. It was the first time in his life Chomper, too, felt at ease, relaxing and enjoying the warm welcome he received. Unfortunately, Chomper couldn't resist and was eager to speak with them. Hello, fellow leaf eaters. Isn't it a lovely day? He greeted a surprised three-horn. Yes, it's nice. So, how long have you lived here? For a while, several season cycles. Cool. What's your name? I'm Rodney. Oh, I'm Thorn. Neat. I can't believe I never heard of this place. Trudy and I come from the Great Valley. The Great Valley isn't real. Yeah, Magnificent said it's only a legend, like the lone dinosaur. Added a swimmer male. Oh, I'm sorry. The name's Damper, by the way. Hello, I'm Rodney. Yes, I heard you introduce yourself to my friend here, Thorn. Chomper let out a chuckle. As for the Great Valley, it's as real as I'm standing here. I grew up there with my friends, and the lone dinosaur is very real, too. At first he didn't like me because... Chomper trailed off, knowing he wasn't a Sharptooth anymore, at least not visibly. Anyway, he warmed up to me after we saved his lady friend Darla. Several gathered around, interested in what Chomper had to say. A flyer spoke up, quietly though. Well, we don't associate with those outside the sanctuary. Magnificent says it's best to keep away from them. They might carry illness. Most are pretty healthy, especially those in the Great Valley. This gained a gasp, everyone listening to every word Chomper said. Well, as nice as it sounds, we must remain here. The Sharptooth are dangerous, and Magnificent says we should stay in one place. Why? Chomper plucked a leaf and tossed it aside, unable to eat the greens despite being in a fast-runner body. To keep from being killed. Yeah, Magnificent said he'd come upon a herd that had been slaughtered and weren't even eaten upon. There was a yell of agreement. Sharptooth kill for fun. To kill us and end us. That was only one crazy Sharptooth, but they don't want to kill you off. They need you more than you know it. Chomper froze, knowing what he said came out wrong, and didn't want to look foolish. It's no different than when I eat a clam. The other clams know I don't want them all, only enough to sustain myself. Still, we don't ask questions, don't leave the sanctuary," added the flyer. Chomper didn't know what she meant, yet shrugged it off and left to speak with others. The sanctuary was like the Great Valley, with several leaf-eaters of all types, shapes, and sizes. They were families. There were several families, Chomper missing his own kids and the mysterious island. "So, you have any young?" a female asked, picking up her hatchling that was still too little to walk on its own. "Yeah, 2. You should bring them here. It's a wonderful place to raise kids, all because of Magnificent. There is a strong group who patrol the grounds to keep us safe from the Sharptooth." "Really? I wonder why I didn't smell any sign or, what I mean is, I didn't see any footprints." "No, Magnificent watches out for us, protects us. He has a wonderful dream, a vision he'd like to share with those outside our sanctuary." "Wow, what is it?" "Oh, well, we don't know." Chomper held a confused look. "Well, why didn't he tell you? You're his herd. A good leader must be able to communicate with the herd. At least that's what my brother Littlefoot does." "Let's just say it's best not to ask too many questions. Besides, we have it easy here. Why risk it all for curiosity?" Chomper only nodded and accepted the answer, which wasn't an answer in any shape or form. While Chomper was enjoying his time among the sanctuary, Ruby found herself feeling a bit out of place. She continued to wear her grass coverings and face paint, carrying her weapons by her side. The herd wasn't rude to her, only shuffling away or continuing their conversation. Looking around, Ruby didn't see Magnificent, curious as to where he was. "Excuse me, but where is Magnificent?" Ruby asked a Longneck.
"Well, Magnificent is patrolling the sanctuary. He takes a few selected members for a very important mission. But a word of advice, it's best not to ask too many questions."
The Longneck spoke softly. "If one doesn't ask questions, how will one learn?" With a quick look, the Longneck leaned his head closer to Ruby.
"The name's Thunder. I'm a member of the patrol, and have seen things in my time here. Let's just say, those who begin to question Magnificent, well, they are asked to leave and not come back."
"So why stay if he doesn't truly care about your safety? If he discards of you so easily?"
"Because where else would we go?"
"The Great Valley."
"Magnificent says it's only a fairy tale. It's not real. But the sanctuary is real. The safety he provides us is real. I suggest you keep your head down, miss. Don't want to cause trouble."
Moving along, Thunder lifted his head to eat upon the tops of the trees. With a curious hum, Ruby went around, asking small questions to the herd, keeping it simple to find out more of the sanctuary and Magnificent. The deeper she dug, the more intrigued she became. "So, who founded the sanctuary? Originally, of course, 'cause, let's face it, Magnificent looks to be my age." "Well, we're not supposed to speak of that time. But don't worry, miss. You and your mate will be safe here. Rest assured, there's no need to question our great Magnificent. He is a good male who is keeping us safe from those vicious Sharptooth." "I see. Thank you for your advice." By the time the bright circle was about to touch the ground, Magnificent returned to address his herd. Ruby stood among the herd, who gazed up with admiration, care, and hope. Glancing around, she tried to find Chomper, wondering where he'd gone off to. When she found him, she saw his expression match the rest. She was a bit shocked he was won over so quickly. Then again, Chomper was quick to trust, even if there were several signs it wasn't safe. Ruby couldn't say, but she felt something was off, felt it in her gut. Unfortunately, none seemed brave enough to speak up, to question the great Magnificent. Atop the rock, Magnificent waved.
"Hello, herd members of Sanctuary!" They cheered loudly. "Enjoying another lovely, safe day?" Their response was even greater than the last. I know, you love me. How could you not? I'm the one who keeps you safe and sound from the menace that are Sharptooth." Walking back and forth, Magnificent's face grimaced slightly. Only the keenest would be able to spot it, and Ruby did. Right! Well, you can sleep peacefully, knowing that each day we get closer and closer to living in a world without fear. Someday, I imagine a place where leaf eaters never have to worry about being eaten ever again! The herd shouted as Magnificent bowed and turned to walk away. Among the herd, Ruby made her way through, managing to reach the other side of the rock formation to confront Magnificent.
That was quite an uplifting speech, Magnificent.
When he saw it was her, Magnificent's eyes lit up with interest. Ah, Trudy. Just the fast runner I wanted to talk to.
Really? You wished to see me? Wanted to talk to me?
Yes, I was hoping tomorrow you might join me and my team on a scout mission. His gaze moved over her. With such objects, you could be very useful to the mission.
Of course, I'd be honored.
Yes, meet me here by the time the bright circle rises.
I will be here. Should I bring Rodney?
Magnificent chuckled and placed a hand on her shoulder. I think it'd be best to take you first and leave Rodney here. Besides, it looks like he's made some friends. He'll be fine. Blinking a few times, Ruby got the feeling Magnificent didn't think too much of Chomper.
Okay, I understand. I'll see you tomorrow.
Right. Sleep well. He smiled at her and walked off, Ruby leaving to find Chomper. She wondered how to break the news that she was selected over him. Then again, Chomper never minded that Ruby excelled at things he didn't. It was another quality in him Ruby was grateful for, knowing most males would feel her skills threaten their pride. With a deep breath, she hurried into the crowd in search of Chomper, who blended in more ways than she would have liked.